So I'm going to warm you up by asking this man a question, because does everybody know what David does for a living? Do you want to tell them a little bit about what you do?
I'm head of London. I'm
Yeah.
head of engagement.
So forget Boris and Sadiq Khan,
And this
David.
is my difficult poo face, I think. Like, you know,
I think
I
he
do
looks.
not know how that appears on our corporate documentation. They must have caught me when I wasn't paying attention.
I think he looks like Action Man 1978.
I joined the CIPD just over a year ago. A year
Yeah.
ago, they decided they wanted to hire really smart people with beards, and I managed to get in before that. So kind of the last of
Great.
the previous ones. So I look after our branch network and the strategy sitting behind that, but I also do a lot of, workplace commentary and
nice.
blogging and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah, and David and I met on social media first. I think our first meeting was across a Skype conversation when you were sat in your very sunny lounge, and he kind of popped up, and it's like, well, who is this guy? Where's he been? And now he's prolific in that space. He talks a lot about things, and so it's worth following David's work. And so just to give you a little inkling about what I do, I don't mean this in a horrible way, but I'm never going to have a job ever again in my life because that's too domesticated for me. I'm feral. I am literally like, a cat that no longer wants to live in a house and just lives in the wild. So I'm a freelancer and I just pop up wherever work happens. But David and I collaborate quite a bit. I thought we'd start out with a question, linking actually from Curtis's session earlier on. I mean, gee, how mind-blowingly thoughtful was that session? So David doesn't know what this question is, so he's completely freestyling here, so be kind to him. So Curtis talked about, are we headed into a new form of capitalism? Okay, remember he said that? So I'd like to ask David, are we headed into a new form of work?
And is it straight yes, no?
Yeah.
Because that's nice and simple, I can handle.
But then I would ask a supplemental question, but are we?
Are we heading into a new form of work?
Yeah.
There's a whole host of different dimensions that kind of play into that. So if you look at Andy Haldane at the Bank of England saying that within the next 15 years, up to 50% of jobs could be automated,
Yep.
that fundamentally changes the landscape that we operate in
Yep.
terms of the way that we work. Everyone here, just due to the fact that we have Wi-Fi, is aware of kind of the power of digitalization, but it's a lot kind of more complex than that.
Yep.
We've had a shift towards knowledge work and away from manufacturing, and we've seen kind of what's happening with the steelworks in Port Talbot.
Yep.
So yes, we very much are,
Yeah.
but I think the challenge is what does that look like in the next 10 or 15 years?
Okay.
So I don't doubt that there is a new form of work. I love the question about, how is capitalism going to change?
Yeah.
So at what point do we stop measuring productivity and GDP and start thinking about, what makes you happy?
Yeah, okay.
Which I think is a valid economic
Yeah.
outcome. So
Yeah.
markets are very good at shifting money around,
Yep.
but actually as people we need a lot more than just that transaction
Okay.
For kind of the richness of life. So
Okay.
yes.
Okay, great. So that's the kind of thing we'd like you to go and do, is look at some of those philosophical, economical, psychological, whatever you want to call it, sort of frames of reference. So here's your 3 questions. Are you ready for them? You might want to take some notes on this.
Question 1.
Question 1, in true bingo style calling. The first one largely looks at the relationship between people and organisations. So, how do you see the changing relationship between people and organisations in that next 5 to 10 year cycle? That's a pretty big, existential, fundamental kind of question. How do you see and sense the change in the relationship between people and organisations in the next 5 to 10 years? Okay, happy with that one?
Question 2.
Okay. Gee, I feel like I'm on Bullseye, the programme, yeah, which makes me something of a dart player. Okay, people and data and science. So here's the next question then. People analytics and people science, how do we measure and unlock the value of employees, of people? How do we measure and unlock the value of people and employees? So David talked about beyond GDP and so on and so forth, and happiness and so on. So how do we measure and unlock the value of employees, also known as people? Happy with that?
Bully's special question.
It's funny because when I used to play five-a-side football, I was called bully, and that's not because I'm aggressive, quite the opposite. Okay, this one looks at the world of digital. And David and I's kind of professional field, if you want to call it that, we just hang out there. So what advice would you give to the HR profession about digital in the workplace? It's not a ploy for free consulting. It's genuinely, we want you to talk about it, debate it, kick it around, and so on. Okay, all right with those 3 questions? Anybody want me to repeat them? Second one, okay, second one is, so think people analytics and data. How do we measure and unlock the value of people in the workplace. Okay. So, I guess what we'd like you to think about doing is which one of those are you drawn to the most, and you may find all three of them equally appealing, and you may want to be a bit of a butterfly and kind of flip between the two of them. We somehow need to assemble outside in groups to decide on those topics. So it might be in a little bit of conversation. It might be somebody says, I'm going to take the digital one. I'd like to lead the conversation. So is anybody in this room wanting to sort of lead question 1, if you remember what that was? Do you remember that one? That was about the changing relationships. Yeah, you'd like to. So this guy with the blue check shirt is going to find some space outside, and if you're into that question, then you can huddle around him. You can break up as well if you want to. You don't have to be a group of like 45 people never saying anything. You can chunk down into groups of 5 or whatever. And then all we'd like you to do is come back with some thoughts, some deductions, and maybe some questions, and we'll see how we go. And we reckon we can give you about half an hour of good conversation. You happy with that? Thank you very much, my friend. What's your name? John in the blue check shirt. Right, so who'd like to pick the people and measurement thing? How do we unlock a measure? Oh, at the front there, Curtis, you're going to lead that one. Right, okay, so everybody... Well, he's going to be the pivotal point of congregation. So Curtis is going to congregate around that question 2 about the measurement. And then who wants to lead on the advice to the HR profession about the digital workplace? Don't all rush to that one. Yes, Ange would like to do that. So Ange here in the pink, all the way from New Zealand via Cambridge, is going to lead on that one. So like I say, huddle, start off, break up, do what you want, take your pads, notepads, whatever, sketch out. I think that's about it, isn't it? Do you think there's anything else we need?
The only thing I'd add is that what I find often helps the thinking process is ice cream. So don't be afraid to wander slightly further away from the steps and kind of enjoy
It's a Mr.
the
Whippy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mr. Whippy? Yeah, okay. So ice cream may be consumed, and other rules don't apply. So you just go off and do your thinking. Are you happy with that? Yeah, we'll kind of corral you in about half an hour's time. I mean, David and I are going to have a job on our hands, but we'll try and find you. If not, just try and assemble here in half an hour. You happy with that? Thanks very much, guys. Yay, go.
All right, well, we completely unplanned managed to sort of split into 3 teams and talk about the challenges that HR are facing with digital, then some suggestions on what to do right now, and then what needs to happen in the future.
Ooh,
so I'd love to say that we planned it and it was all very organised, but it just happened completely by chance. So
Lovely.
I'm going to hand over to Sam, who talked about the challenges.
Thank you. Jump in if you need to. So yeah, while we were eating ice creams, which was very lovely, we started off the conversation by talking about digital as an end goal, or whether something to facilitate what HR needs. And we thought about what HR might actually want to do with digital. Why have it at all?
Business stand on that ethical line of embracing technology and future nanotechnologies and replacement of people versus trying to keep yourself wedded to the human aspects of work. And that was that.
Fab, thanks. So I'm just going to sum that up in 3 words and ask David to respond. So I think what we saw there was moving away from compliance, moving into experimentation, and being responsible about ethics. So thanks for that, guys. David, a response to that? Just a quickie?
Yeah, so really quickly, I think the most important thing to do is to think about what the business wants and needs first. So kind of the question about HR, how HR is going to use it, kind of gets you into a niche really quickly. And the ethical one's a really interesting one. So I'll talk about Jurassic Park. There's a lovely line in Jurassic Park, which is just because you could do it doesn't mean you should do it. And I think the choice facing organisations now about implementation of technology, where actually there's quite profound impacts on jobs. So Foxconn, who are a large company who kind of make lots of components for the phones that will be in your pockets now, they've just reduced their workforce by 60,000 people due to automation in one fell swoop. That's that's 60,000 families sitting behind that, 60,000 livelihoods. We've got some really profound ethical questions, and actually now's the time to start answering them and kind of exploring them, because otherwise in a couple of years it will be too far down that track.
Brilliant. So I think these guys deserve a good round of applause for that one. Thank you, Digital. Okay. So if we go backwards, then the next group is the ones who looked at the value and how do we sort of measure and impact on that value stuff. So that was that your guys, Curtis? So are you going to take the lead on this one? Thank you. And no, but you are now, because I sort of press ganged you into it.
But hang on a sec, I wasn't the only person sitting out there, was I?
No, who wants to help Curtis?
Come on.
I ought to add you've
That's
only got
better.
5 minutes, right? So,
How long have we got?
5 minutes.
Should we instead of doing this with words, should we display this in dance? Maybe
Yeah.
we'll do this as a dance. That
Go
will save
on. How
time.
do you display the value of people in workplaces in dance format? Can't wait. Go for it.
Okay, it's going to be slow. So, the first feeling I think that I felt when we sat down was a slightly negative one. And actually the question to me felt negative. The thought of measuring humans in that way. I mean, you know, obviously there's lots of different ways of measuring them, but it felt like just measuring them with numbers is a very inhumane way of measuring people and human lives. And I think there are a few other people in the group.
And then user research, where we spend lots of time listening to people. And I think we kind of touched on that towards the end, which is the conversations that come with measuring people, but also the kind of the faith that people have in the system that they're part of. So that kind of idea of measuring the right stuff.
It's helpful for people to be measured, because you need to know how you're doing, how you're progressing, and how you relate to other people. So I didn't take the initial negative, measurement is bad, as being the right assertion to take at the start of the conversation. I also challenged the group, because my perception was that it was largely small.
Those KPIs are measured. So, but you can't do away with them if you are a growing company. So this is what my take is.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to sum that up in 4 words. So we had clap them while they're going, because they just clearly couldn't wait. Thank you. So I'm going to sum it up in 4 words. So with the pole vaulting swim channeler thing, abstract, don't forget to measure the abstract. I think when we hear about people that like measuring and can respond to that well, so we perhaps all need to be analysts. So there's abstract analysts. Then I think there is the tension between large and small, so we do need alternatives to what we've got now because they're not good enough. And then I think in what we've just heard there, measurement can equal advancement at a corporate and individual level. So remember those 4 things there. Abstract, analysts, alternatives, and advancement. Anything from you?
Really quickly, I think if you're using measurements to inform decisions in a really rich way, that absolutely makes sense. If they're dictating all of your decisions, that's a really limited way of doing business.
Yeah, inform, not dictate. And last but not least, I think the relationship between people and organisations. Who's going to lead on that one? Are you going to do it, Mr. Check Shirt Man John? Get in, thank you. Good stuff. So we're still going to give you 5 minutes because we deserve it, don't we? Come on. You were first to put your hand up and everything. So, John, go for it. Go for it.
So, we sat on the grass and we had a discussion about the changing relationship between employees and organisations, and the 3 areas that we talked about worthwhile. Does anybody else from the group want to say anything that I may have missed? Or?
Get in. They want cake.
Coffee and cake.
Thank you, John. I think he deserves. Yeah, thank you. So a response from Monsieur?
I guess a sobering response, which is that this group, I always think if you come to a conference like this, wonderfully aspirational, but you're hugely atypical of the workforce in the UK and kind of broader. So for everyone who can go away from here and discuss this over a Starbucks, someone's serving you in that Starbucks, and like the future work needs to include them as well. So I think it's absolutely valid and desirable for organisations to have a healthy social purpose, and that's wonderful to bring out, but there's this lovely context challenge around how quickly does that come to different industries in different ways. But having events like this here today kind of provide a vanguard of people who can kind of show the way forward. So
nice.
Yeah, pretty inspiring.
Nice, thank you. So I'm just going to leave you with my 3 takeaways on that one, which kind of wrap the whole session up really. So I think what I really heard loudly there was transparency. We don't just want to get told what they think they want us to know. We want to know what it's really, really like. And then I heard the individuality thing, and do you know what? I matter. So therefore, I'm not just going to transact my way through work. I matter. I've got an opinion. I want to change things. So there's that thing. But then I'm going to leave you with the togetherness, because I think employees, customers, whatever it is, we're all people. And actually, organisations are false constructs, but they're together. So I think I'll leave you with that togetherness. So it's been fun. So thank you for indulging us in the outside and the inside. He's good to work with, so if you ever get the chance, do. And so can we show David a little bit of appreciation for his wisdom and go and get something to drink and stuff now.